Hello and welcome to this episode of On the Neutral Ground. Thanks for tuning in.
And check us out on all social media platforms at On the NG Show, as well as YouTube and Apple Podcast. Hello, I'm Jason Wagensback.
And I'm Victoria Green. We're very excited to bring you this episode of On the Neutral Ground.
Today, our guest, the truly inspiring Lisa Arnold, writer, director, and producer.
Enjoy the show. Welcome to the show, Lisa. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. So great to have me. I'm just excited to be here with you guys.
Well, we're really happy to have you here with us.
Absolutely, absolutely. Hey, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get started in this industry?
Well, it was quite a route. So I began in theater, did live theater for 15 years.
I did the same thing.
Then I was asked to do a live television show for a Fox affiliate, did that for 4 years, was on air, produced as well, was the writer as well, and then found my way into film in Georgia in, somewhere in the 90s, late 90s, and then I didn't think I'd like the process very much. I thought that it would really bore me because everything I had done from that moment was live. And now we're talking about, slow and tedious.
Yep.
And but the opposite happened. I fell in love with it, every aspect of it. So I began producing for people because I had that background in writing and obviously on camera as well as off camera, just doing whatever I could to help in, and then really found a great group that I was working with in Georgia, and just ended up loving it and couldn't see myself doing anything else. So then my whole experience has just grown from there, and I grew into the director's role, grew into the writing role. I think I started writing like in 1999. I started directing in 2008 or 9. So yeah, it's been a slow journey. It's been wonderful though.
So you're a perfectionist. I like to say people who come from theater that go into filmmaking, like myself, literally want to take the time and perfect the shot versus just going out and obviously seizing whatever is actually going to happen on the stage that day, because you never know what's going to happen on the stage.
Well, I like to be fully prepared when I go out there, so I have a lot of conversations with my DP and my entire team, making sure that we are well prepared. What I don't like is when you have to wait around on the director to figure out what he wants to do. And I, as a producer, I've experienced that quite a bit. And I feel for the entire team, because everybody is just, we rush to get there in the morning, and now we're going to wait for 2.5 hours while they figure out what their first shot is. Yep. So I think preparation is key. I want the day to go great. I want to make my day, but I have to get what I need to get. So being prepared on the front end is the best way to handle that. And I want to capture, what I'm seeing. Yeah.
And you started off in front of the camera in theater.
Yeah.
And when did you get this bug of directing and producing and being behind the camera?
Well, I'll say I've had the bug of directing all my life, because when I was 6 years old to 10 years old, I used to put on productions in my garage and charge my neighbors 25 cents to come in and be,
you had the business sense too early on.
So exactly. I was already in everything. I was already wearing the producer's hat, the director's hat, the actor's hat, the writer's hat, all of it. And so I think it's just been one of, the gift that, it just kept growing as I aged as well. The first time that I directed, I discovered true bliss. Like, I don't know any other way to describe it. And to this day, it is my sweet spot. Like, you won't find me hardly without a smile on my face, and the joy of just being a part of it and seeing it come, to life is just an amazing experience. I'm that way with stage too, by the way. I've directed stage as well, and it's that experience. But you'll know this, that after you direct a live show, it's like crash, and it's like you miss it so bad. You get a little bit more of that love in film because the process is so much longer.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
The anticipation and the instant gratification because you're done.
Yes.
After one show, you're absolutely right.
Yes.
Versus us going 20 and 45 days to go through the process, and then a whole another long period of post to actually release the film to see what the audiences think. Yeah.
And there's so many facets to filmmaking. So I would just say to everybody out there, find your sweet spot. Find that lane that really is your, spot of joy, that you just get everything out of it.
Well, you talk about a sweet spot, but yet when I attended a DGA meeting, a writers group meeting a few weeks ago, you said, if you're going to be a writer, and a director, you better well produce as well.
It's so true because and Walt Disney's the one who set that premise. You need to walk in everybody's shoes, and that's why at Walt Disney you'll find that the head execs are actually characters for a day, or they're working, shelving, putting things on the shelves for a day, or they're making up beds for a day. It's important to walk in everybody's shoes and understand the struggles they have. So, yes, if you're a director who always has demands, you need to get real and become a producer for a project so that you can understand that every dollar matters. And vice versa. If you're a producer who's always, keeping a clinch on your directors, you need to understand that they need to be equipped. When they say they need 50 extras, you can't show up with 8 and expect the scene to be the same. So it's really important to have that empathy for everybody and understand what everybody's struggles are and what it takes for them to pull off what they need to do.
Does that include being in front of the camera, like maybe an extra, whether you're producer or director, be an extra in a movie?
You know what? Any experience you can get is great. Yes, absolutely. I had a relative not too long ago say, I want my SAG cards. I need you to put me in a film. I need you to do this, do that. I was like, this is your dream. You need to do those things. So do what you have to do. If you need to go be on an extra until you get enough vouchers to join SAG, this is your journey. It's not. If I hand you something like that, it's not your journey, and you haven't earned it.
So let's talk about some of the films that you have produced and directed. I seem to see that you've gravitated I don't know if it's all more family, faith and family, or if that's something that began your career, or I just see a lot of those films under your umbrella, if you will, and you do a great job of those, so I'd like to hear about that.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, it's been an interesting journey for me because at first I was an actress, and I tried to find films that in some way encouraged and inspired, in some way had a message beyond the film, and if you read a lot of scripts, you understand that that's not always the case by any means.
Definitely not today.
Yes, yeah. And that's what started me writing because I was so frustrated. I was literally getting nothing I wanted to be a part of. And so I began writing and starting that journey myself. And then it became important for me. First it was faith-based films, and then it was more family-friendly, and then female, driven. So yes, my genre has expanded. I'm loving that. The next film I'll be doing is mainstream. It's an action kid film, so it's still for everyone. But it's mainstream and it's big budget, and it'll be a lot of fun to do. So I'm constantly growing and changing, and that's one of the most exciting things to me about being in the film industry because no two projects are alike. But I definitely have been able to pour a lot into the faith-based film genre and family-friendly as well. Yeah.
Done well in that area for sure.
Yeah, but I think my slate for the next year, there is one faith-based project. There's a couple of female-driven projects for sure. There's a couple of television series that I'm involved in that are female-driven as well. But they are more mainstream than they are the smaller faith-based audience.
What is the biggest challenge in juggling many different genres and not focusing on one, or what has been one of your biggest challenges?
Well, other than genre, I think it's each script. It depends on your budget, depends on what you're supposed to pull off with that budget. Locations are a lot. If it's a big ensemble cast, that's a lot. If you're a period piece, that takes a lot, So I think it's really more each project and the script and what it's going to bring. But I think audience-wise, when you're dealing with different genres, make sure you deliver it. I tell every writer, every film director, every producer, make sure you know who your audience is before you make this film. You better know who you're making it for.
Absolutely. I couldn't disagree.
That comes up in so many different conversations that we've had.
So many times they'll have no answer.
Yeah.
So when I speak at a lot of film festivals, and the writers, the writing workshops are always, a big seller. And so they'll immediately tell me their premise, and I'll say, and who are you making this for? And they literally haven't thought that through.
Yeah, the majority of filmmakers I hear are just, you're right, they have a sort of a broad approach and a broad reach onto what marketing means, and that is, well, I'm making this for everybody. And at the end of the day, we know not everybody is going to gravitate towards your specific film. And so it's so important to really hone in on who your market is, who it is that you're actually targeting. and how it is that you're going to reach those people. And so that was going to sort of be my next question is, how did you find your audience? Where did you see your success sort of cross over into really being as successful as you are now, or getting more jobs, or finding the people that really wanted to see more and more of what you were creating?
Yeah. Well, I will say when I first began, I tended to be drawn to scripts that I became the voice for the voiceless. You know, whether it was sex trafficking or a woman losing her husband and just feeling like she had disappeared in life, or a mom who had always, had kids and now she's, alone and doesn't know where to take her life, or the bullying that we addressed in Camp Cool Kids. All these things were that was one of the themes of a thread that connected through everything I was doing. I think you can just really get in touch with what story you want to make and who you're making it for, and make sure that it delivers that message, that particular message. Not that a film can't deliver many messages, I mean, when you look at One Nation Under God, not only do we address, our nation and wanting to place God back in the center of our nation, but we also address a single mom who is Hispanic and has her struggles in this country. We also look at a political life and what that does to that family, so that you can have many, many things that you want to address. Just make sure you're really speaking to your audience through those.
Age No More.
Yeah.
That was the passion project. Kathy Lee Gifford was involved.
Yeah.
Her daughter starred in it.
Cassidy.
And she talked about the film and you during the talk show with Hoda. So how was that, that theme? How did you come to write about it, and what did that film mean
So this
to
is
you?
interesting, because if you would have asked me, 15 years ago, would I ever have wanted to make a movie about human trafficking, the answer would have been no. I'm not. I'm the comedy person. I'm the lighthearted person. I'm, the family-friendly person. But that idea came to me, and that the book from Molly Vinsky came to me, and I had no idea that human trafficking was just so prevalent everywhere. I knew it existed third world countries. I knew it existed somewhat in the U.S., but I had no idea it was in everybody's backyard. Mm-hmm. And I think it became, once that curtain was removed from me, it was just something that I had to do, and then it becomes a passion project. Then you have to decide, I'm doing this regardless of how many people see it. It's about the bottom line. If this can save one life, if this can make a difference in one community or several communities across the country, then it's worth making. And today it's still impacting. Today it's still running, and every day I get emails about that film, and thank you, and where can I get involved, and how do I get involved, and what do I tell my children? And we really looked at that film. I was like, how do I make this where a 13-year-old can go with their parents? And then they can have this conversation, because most people don't understand that it's 10 to 12-year-old boys and 11 to 13-year-old girls that are being taken. Mm-hmm. It's not like the movie Taken. It's not an 18 to 21-year-old. Yes, they are taken as well, but it's really our children that are at greatest risk. Well, how do we address that? It has to start in the home.
Did you have any direct connection to that to want to write about that? Or did you pull the curtain back, as you said, and realize this is happening in my backyard and I now want to do something about it?
So the project was brought to me, and when I read it, I couldn't get over it. And then I had conversations with the writer who actually worked with A21 and worked with another organization, and she was like, no, this is what we do on a daily basis. This is what we're facing on a daily basis. And so then I don't know. I didn't have any trouble getting cast involved in that, because it was so worthy. The challenge was that every faith-based organization and church and all these people said that they would support the movie, but when it came down to it, they really didn't want to look behind the curtain. So that's So that's the frustrating side that you see. But again, to this day, people are seeing it and opening their eyes, and so it's a very impactful, and I think it will be for many years to come.
I hope so.
Yeah,
it's definitely something that needs to be.
It doesn't have
out.
a shelf life. Especially with what's going on right now in the news.
The way that it can be used as an educational tool. There's schools that air that film. I mean, it's that clean. It's that, things are suggested. They're not shown. And that's so that we can really start having these conversations and make people aware.
So this film is very important for outreach as well.
Yes. Oh, sure. Certainly. Yeah.
Across the board.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about how you're getting your movies out. So do you have distribution with the majority of the projects that you begin with, or do you go out on your own, take the risk like most of us independent filmmakers, and hope that a sales agent's going to get us our movie to an audience?
I've done both. I think the first 3 films that I worked on had distribution lined up for them, and then I did have several in a row that did not. So it is challenging these days because more and more people are not going to theatrical releases because it is so expensive. There's a lot of distributors out there. How do you choose whom to go to, you know? So if you're not planning a theatrical release, it doesn't become that important to set up distribution on the front end unless you're needing that machine. Like you're needing a Netflix, you're needing a Hulu, you're needing an Amazon Prime, Paramount, you're needing one of these people. I think it's always the challenge for the filmmaker and the team, because once you sign that over before production, it is no longer your production. You're a part of it, but they can change anything in the script most likely. They can, really adjust things the way that they need it and want it. So the only true way to make your film is to make it, but that is risky for the investors because then you're setting up distribution and they can't really change it. So they either love it, or they don't. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, both paths I've done, and I'll probably continue both paths as well.
Well, people, experts, not sales agents, but film festival agents, talk about the other ways that you can distribute a film festivals, screenings, which is what you just got finished saying. You showed Cage No More in schools. One Nation Under God, that's a little non-traditional, over 33 awards. You've been in the film festival circuit for a while.
We
and
did
it's not
the
been
film
released yet.
No, but we have time for that one. So because we made that one, in plenty of time before the 2020 election, and we've always thought, the time to release that film is during an election year because that's what the film is about. Mm-hmm. It takes place in the election year. So we've had time to cultivate that and to do the film festival circuit. And, I'll tell anybody out there, any filmmaker who's having trouble raising their P&A, that's something you can do in the meantime to keep that momentum going and that exposure going. It does help quite a bit. And to see that the film has been that well received, we've had it tested by distributors as well as Joel Osteen's church did a response for us, and I mean it's just been tremendous how well it scored. We knew it would have an audience of females 35 up. We knew it would have a strong audience of males, and that kind of same range. And as far as the older adults, we weren't sure how many kids we would have. We knew we'd have young kids. We didn't know, like, the millennials at all. But at Joel Osteen's church, it was across the board, everything. Atlas did a huge nationwide thing for us across the board. So it's really interesting. But that film's very unique. People immediately think One Nation Under God is going to be a hard Republican storyline. And in actuality, we represent both sides of the argument. We never say Republican or Democrat. That's really on me because I prefer, I always vote for the person, and I prefer that. So that's as a writer, that was more my choice. But I didn't want this film to divide at all. It's not a divisive film. It's to bring everybody together for the same purpose. And it's to draw attention to, our politicians need to speak up for what they truly believe in and not cater for the vote. But also for each of us, there is a greater purpose in everyone's life. And it has to do with whatever calling you feel is on your life. And it is to use that for that greater purpose. And so we really speak about that in this film. So everybody walks away feeling so uplifted and so inspired and wanting to make a difference. And you can't ask for more than that.
I can't wait to see it.
Do you have more screenings planned in Louisiana?
Probably not until the release at this point, and it is going to be a 2020 release. So hopefully it's going to be the early 2020 so that we can also do the theatrical release and then very quickly roll out the DVD VOD. So it's all happening in the election year. I think we'll get the biggest bang for our buck on that.
Talk about knowing your audience and your
my
marketing
gosh.
strategy.
Well, it's going to be that. See that? I mean, you've got to figure out how you're going to market your film. And for us, it just gets a lot simpler in election year, because really then you're just following, the election. So it's going to be on every network. It'll be fabulous.
Quite brilliant, actually.
Thank you. I'll take
really
that.
smart.
I'll take that. But we're going to have a lot of fun with that one. And I really hope audiences continue to be inspired by it.
Well, I know you're not a native. You originally said you're from Georgia.
Georgia girl. Yeah.
Georgia girl. But what do you give advice? What advice should you give, actually, should I say, for young filmmakers here in Louisiana then that are aspiring directors and writers and really interested in telling their stories? Because I see so much passion out of you in the stories that you actually end up doing and producing. What is it that you would tell a young filmmaker?
Look within and look in your own circle. Every time I talk at a big film festival, I immediately get hit up, well, look at this, look at this, look at this, look at this. And, that's great, but you have to look within, because it is most likely that you're going to believe in your project more than anyone else, and that your circle around you are going to be the people that will support your dream. So stop looking for a name. Stop, for someone who can bring something to your project. Not that that can't happen, but honestly, you've got to create the tools to get it out there. We talked a little bit about that at that writers' meeting. You have to have the tools. You have to have a script. You have to have a pitch deck, a lookbook. You have to have these things to pass around and get your group together. But find one local person, one person in your circle that really believes in you, and then start letting them bring in people, outside of your circle a little bit, so to speak. But just know the bottom line starts and stops with you. Yeah. And you have to see it all the way through, don't you? It's not just about getting the script done. It's not just about getting production done. People don't realize once production's, you're still not even halfway there. So, you can think your paycheck may stop after you're filming, but your job is not over by any means. You're going to be involved in PR and marketing and release and all those things.
Absolutely agree.
Yeah.
Sorry, you were saying.
Oh, that's okay. Pitch deck and lookbook. How important are those in the big spectrum of distribution, getting a sales agent,
They're basic
everything.
They're basic tools that you absolutely need. They cast the vision for the film, and there's something for people to look at. And especially if you're working with a sales agent, you put together the pitch deck. You put together, say the top 4 roles, and particularly in mainstream, where you're going to get far in pre-sale. So it has to be people they approve of, so that they'll know that they'll get those pre-sales. So it's all smart. With faith-based films, we don't have as much foreign sales, so that's not as important. And also the faith-based audience shows up for no names just as much as they show up for names. So it becomes a little bit of a different, but you always need those tools. Yes, put them together.
And what should a pitch deck contain?
I think number one, you're going to have the synopsis. You're going to have your several lead roles and, a variety of who might play that role, anywhere from someone you can afford to someone you probably can't afford, but depending on where the budget's going to go. And then you want to have your, let's see. Let me think. I'm so sorry. I'm going blank. No, you're going to have your budget, so your top sheet in there. You're going to have, if you've got any kind of bios of anybody that's attached, you're going to have those in there. If you've worked with different companies, different distributors, you might have a page that shows just like the logos of relationships of things that you've had. You can also include, if this is going to be shown to any money people, you kind of want a waterfall in there to show how it's going to be paid back. Similar films is something that you want to put in there. So maybe give 2 examples of that and like a budget of, what it costs and then what it made at the box office to kind of cast a vision of what your film could make. Yeah.
And then I just want to clarify, this sounds more like an investment binder, but there is a lookbook, which is a bit different too,
So that's
which will
why I'm
give
calling
tone
it a
and
pitch
feel.
deck versus
Okay,
lookbook.
pitch deck. I just want to make sure. I just want to clarify for our audience.
Yeah, lookbook is more the look and feel, and that's more from your director than anybody else. And it's casting the vision of what it's going to look like.
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you, Jason.
Absolutely. Yeah, it goes far. I mean, I've had several scripts come across my desk that, sometimes can be a bit confusing when you're going through the material. And when they sent over a lookbook after I requested it, unfortunately it didn't come before, it absolutely explained everything. And so there is so much can go and get out of a lookbook that won't necessarily come across the page. And
Right.
so it can go a long way, especially for people that you want to bring on board, creatives.
Yes.
Your
yes.
DPs, actors that maybe want to be interested. It really gets
Your
people
vision
excited.
for lighting, your vision for, what camera
really
you're
gets
gonna
people
use.
excited.
Yeah, coloring.
Yep.
Talking about getting people excited, you've had some well-known names in your films. Dean Cain, Sorbo.
I think I've worked with Kevin Sorbo.
Kevin Sorbo,
4 times now, yeah. I've directed him twice and produced him twice.
And Eric
A lot of fun.
Roberts has been in your films as well. And you seem to have a very good relationship with your actors and with your crew.
Well, I'm definitely a actor's director, so I love my. I just got back from LA and saw some of my cast from One Nation. I mean, I always get back together with they become my family. They just become my family, and the crew as well. So, I think so much of a director's role is relationships. It's bringing out the best in everybody that's around you. It's okay if you don't have all the answers. You're equipping yourself with the people around you that are going to bring this vision. And I think everybody's opinion is important to me at appropriate times. But we're all working together. It's always a collaboration. You always want to bring magic out of it, and it's about incorporating this amazing team. So, and that's cast and crew. I always try and set up my actors with great success. I want them to feel comfortable. I want them to feel prepared. I want, I walk them through things. As far as blocking and as far as how the scene's going to go, what rhythm we're going for, all those things. But I also leave them room to create, and I think that's important for them as well.
Absolutely.
I had, so Rob Belushi and Lauren Frost, which you may not know those names, but Rob, you'll know, his uncle was John Belushi. His dad is Jim Belushi.
Of course.
And Rob is from that amazing, family of actors and comedians, and Rob has all of that plus. I mean, he's just freaking phenomenal. But he and Lauren both, were just great at improv. I mean, they're just geniuses at improv. And so there was one time I just set them to the side. It was in a scene that was supposed to be the big political debate, right? And so they're in the wings checking out their candidate. And so it's just all the little things that they might, comment after every answer or every question. And I just let them go. Like for 15 minutes, we just rolled on them. And not all of it by any means could be in the film because it wasn't all appropriate. But oh my gosh, I've never laughed so hard.
Improv is sometimes the best.
Yeah.
It is. It's just so genuine.
Well, and it's a true gift from both of them. So that's why I had to have that team together. And I had to fight a little bit because they wanted a name in one of those roles, and I was like, no, I cannot. Now that I've seen him, I cannot see anybody else in this, part. And so, and Lauren toured with Barbara Streisand as the younger funny girl. So they both are just phenomenal. So, use those when you've got those gifts with, in your cast, use them. Yeah.
Do you audition actors together to see if they have chemistry?
Oh, I do, and I'm notorious for holding on to somebody at an audition if I really like them. So I'll just, can you possibly could you hang out with me for a couple hours, and just let them go ahead and read, with the others. That was a big thing for me when I was doing Cage No More, because I had to have actors that spoke Greek. And not many of the actors actually spoke Greek. And so when I would find one, I would say, just kind of hang out with me for a little while. Let me see. But yeah, I'll do that. And then pretty much your cards are on the table. You've got that you're gonna use that kid probably. But that's okay. That's okay. I've had people come in my auditions. And usually, I would say probably 90% of the time, I'm going to give an actor a redirection just to see what they can do and to make sure they can think on the spot and move for me. But when Rob came in, he thought I didn't like him because he came in, he delivered his line. He said, I was like, okay, thank you. And he's like, do you want me to do this? I've prepared this other scene. I can do this one. Okay, go ahead. And he did it. And I was like, thank you. And then, okay. And then he just walks out thinking, oh, I don't think that went very well. And I'm in the room going, oh my gosh, like I found this amazing talent. He's so awesome. So, and apparently it's so funny. So maybe sometimes I say very little when I'm really in love with the actors. So.
You don't want to give away all the goods. You're just dying inside to be able to release that.
No, there was one female actress, Emily Hahn, who I've now done 3 films with, and we've become like such great friends. But Emily thought at the end of Camp Cool Kids that I didn't really like her or like the performance that she gave me that much, and it was quite the opposite. I had 200 and something kids on set. You know, I had 16 kids that had speaking roles. And I just didn't have to give her the attention. She always delivered for me. So we laugh about that today. Yeah.
It's too funny.
Yeah.
People talk about the fact that dealing with children and dealing with animals are 2 of the toughest things you could do. And yet, look at all the kids that you deal with.
No, I love working with kids. I really do.
Why?
I've had very little bad experiences. I love it. I love their energy. I feel like the kids always come better prepared than the adults, honestly. Always. They just do. They can't. They don't trust to wing it. They always come very prepared. Yeah. Isaac Presley had a 7-page. You know, one of the debates was 7 pages. One time in all of the takes he call for 1 line. That was it. You know, you just don't find that. They're so well prepared, and they just want to prove themselves.
Yes.
Love. Animals is another thing. Animals is harder. I had to be a cat wrangler one time. Just because we were low production, you know, low budget. I was producing. We didn't have money to bring in a wrangler, and the director he wouldn't let it be a dog. I was like, please let it be a dog. I'll bring you my dog. Just please let it be a dog. No, I have to have a cat. I have to have a cat. Nobody had a cat. Nobody in the crew had a cat. Nobody had a cat. I finally called one of the shelters and I was like, can we borrow a cat for a day? And can somebody come with the cat? They were like, well, we don't have anybody to come with the cat, but you can get the cat, take the cat, use the cat for the day. You know, we'll trust you to take care of it and bring it back. And then they said, but if you don't have it back by 5 o'clock, you know, because this was a Friday, you'll have to keep the cat all weekend. I'm allergic to cats. Let me just say I'm allergic to cats. And so the day was going by. That director was way behind. I finally got in his face about 3 o'clock. I said, you either shoot the cat now or the cat's going away, because I'm not keeping the cat for the weekend for you. So let's film the cat now. And I made it back in time, like 5 minutes to spare.
Well, I don't have any pets that I would push your way to put on set, but I do have 2 little girls that are begging me to get on stage or in front of the camera that I've just been very weary about, but I feel very comfortable sending them your way for auditions.
Oh my gosh, I love working with kids. Love it so much.
They're a trip. They love entertaining. So
that's great. My grandkids are the same. Like when they come to play with me, we don't have toys. I don't have toys at my house. I am their toy, you know, and we do nothing but, you know, play The Greatest Showman or
that's their
Mary
favorite
Poppins
movie.
or whatever we've seen, we become that day. Yeah.
Absolutely.
A lot of fun in improv.
Well,
Absolutely.
you and I you were a producer on Because of Gracia.
Yes.
And you were in the audition when I auditioned for the role. It was my first and only speaking role in a major film. I figured I'd quit while I was ahead.
That was a great film,
It was a good
too.
film. And
That was a great
I really
film.
enjoyed that production.
Beautifully shot.
And you put yourself in almost every single film that you direct or produce.
No. When I'm producing, sometimes I'll go on camera.
Okay.
I think I've only put myself in 1 film that I've directed.
Okay.
I kind of draw the line. I don't go on both sides.
As long
when
as
I'm
you're
directing.
not a director, you're in there.
Can be. It just depends on how busy I am as the producer. But less and less I go on camera. Yeah.
So, final question: how do you find your material? Do you have it solicited to you, or are you writing your own? Do you have an agent that brings material to you?
Okay, so when I create a lot of projects. I'm just a content machine. So as far as development, it's a lot, a content machine. I'm always making product, but I have a lot of projects that come to me now for for directing and a few for producing as well. So I'm not really looking at projects. I'm not really raising funds anymore. I'm slated to direct several films right now. I think I've got 4 or 5 under contract right now.
Yeah.
So, and then producing I'll do, in between, but, and then I'm always writing. Now a lot of people call me and say, could you write the screenplay or could you do a rewrite on this? I will say rewrites are so easy for me. Like I can bang out a rewrite and I immediately see the cracks in foundation. And it's because I've worn every hat. It's because I've done, the producer, the director, and the writer. I know what these people have written. I ask them first off, what's your budget? Okay, I got to know that number one because I'm going to take anything off the page that you can afford and I'm going to figure out how you can shoot it.
Brilliant.
So yeah. Those are easy for me, and I love it.
You're such a gem. I'm so glad we have you as a local here. It's just really great to have you in Louisiana making stories, telling stories, I should say.
Do you have a project slated to be shot here in Louisiana anytime soon?
I was hoping Kid Combat was going to come here, but we're shooting it in Chicago, unless it starts to get too cold because of our talent, and then we have a chance of bringing it back here. But yeah, I have a couple of projects that I've been developing that are specific for New Orleans or for Louisiana.
I have some availability starting in September if you catch me now. So
okay, sounds good.
It gets awfully cold
talk,
in Chicago.
we'll talk.
It sure does. Well, this has been great. Victoria, anything else for
I
Lisa?
wanted to ask one quick question. You said you really don't deal with funding a whole lot now, but for that intermediate or up-and-coming director, writer, producer, what guidelines or tips could you give them on fundraising? Obviously, you have a pitch deck and a lookbook, but what are your suggestions?
you need to have a budget too, and I've done budgets for people. I mean, you need to have somebody who is prepared.
Budget.
Prepare the budget for you as well. Yeah. And I mean,
begging.
It goes back to that circle. Go back to who in that circle can put you in front of people of influence or people who are looking to, get into filmmaking and want to be an executive producer. And you just got to be very passionate about it and don't take no for an answer and keep moving forward. It really does come back to you.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. This has been wonderful. I appreciate you coming by today.
Well, thank you for
Do you have
having
any
me.
closing?
It's so great to see you guys.
As I walk right over your words.
No, it's okay.
Do you have any closing thoughts?
I think being a filmmaker is one of the most inspiring things that you can do. And I just encourage everybody to live out their dream, if this is in some way. And if you don't know what you're passionate about yet, then start trying on the hats, Just start PAing or get on set as an extra, Start being in the world and find out how you want to be a part of it. And I think it's great when you can do more than one role, and certainly it can sustain you better when you're doing more than one role because, as you all know, the films come and go, and you have to get used to that ebb and flow. But for me, I love it because I give all to a film, and then I travel and enjoy life for a while, and then I come back and do it again. So, yeah.
Yeah, you've honored that. You've earned that for sure for doing what you've done for quite a long time. So
You're delightful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You are too. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm so excited for you, Jason, and everything that's happening at the ranch. That's just phenomenal.
I appreciate it. We're working hard here. We're trying to do it for more and more people.
Yes, and how great will it be to one day just everything be homegrown? So your writers, producers, and directors and your projects everything's being done here.
That's my goal.
From beginning to end.
Yep. I'm trying to help young filmmakers put their roots in the ground here so that we have more and more opportunities for them and for people who want to work here.
I appreciate that because you're always looking for how we can fill in what we're still missing here in Louisiana.
We hope we can get you some other time after maybe your next directing gig to come in and tell us all about it.
It'll be fun. Big cast. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of On the Neutral Ground with Lisa Arnold.
It's been a great show. Now be sure to stay connected with us on social media @On the NG Show. We'd love to hear what you have to say.
And special thanks to our audio engineer, Tijan Dabaziz, and videographer and editor, Andre LaFleur.
Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.